What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and you're watching our Big Ten football channel. It's time for our power rankings heading into Week 9 of the 2019 college football season. Is it Ohio State and then everyone else, or are there teams that are going to challenge the Buckeyes? Penn State seems to be poised to be that team potentially, and they got another big win as they beat Michigan this past weekend. But we're going to rank these teams the best that we can, and we'll see how this comes out. You guys, of course, can give me your thoughts down below and rank these teams. Give me your power rankings down in the comments below. So we start with number 14, and I think this one's pretty obvious. It's Rutgers. It is Rutgers. They are 1-6 now overall, 0-5 in the Big Ten, and they lose to Minnesota 42-7. This team continues to struggle really on both sides of the ball. They have really clearly been the worst team in the Big Ten now, not just this year, but for 2 or 3 years, I guess. It's just been a struggle here for this program. We'll see who they wind up getting as their next head coach. Maybe someone can get it turned around, but again, Rutgers at the bottom here, number 14 in our Week 9 Big Ten power rankings. So let's move on now to number 13, another team that has struggled this year, and that's Northwestern. Northwestern, yes, number 13. I don't think I wouldn't have expected them to be this low if I had, preseason, I said, where would Northwestern be in our Week 9 power rankings? I would have had them much higher than this. They lose to Ohio State 52-3. The offense is just not very good for this team. Quarterback play, not good. They're not getting much in the run game. Defense has been pretty solid this year, but they gave up 52 points to an explosive Ohio State offense. They're 1-5, 0-4 in the Big Ten. And a lot of that has to do with the schedule. They played a really tough schedule, so there is still time for Northwestern to get it turned around, but they've got to get that done very quickly. Number 12 is Maryland. Remember when they got a big win early in the year, knocking off Syracuse? We thought that was a huge win. Turns out Syracuse is not very good, but we thought that Maryland was going to be a good team. Well, they lose at home to Indiana 34-28. They're 3-4 now on the season, 1-3 in Big Ten conference play. Josh Jackson now out with an injury, so they've gone back to Pigram at quarterback. He played okay in this game, played decent in this one, but at the end of the day, Indiana got the win 34-28. So Maryland now, they're going to struggle just to make a bowl game because they still have a lot of tough games ahead on their schedule. They're number 12. Number 11 is Purdue. Purdue, the team that just beat Maryland, not this past week, but the week before. They played Iowa really tough this week. This was an upset alert pick for me, because I thought they might go in there and challenge them. They only lose by 6. It's not like they were really in the game late. They were down by a couple of scores and scored late and made it interesting. But Iowa did pull away, or they did survive, I should say. Purdue gets the win, or takes the loss. They're 2-5 now on the season, 1-3 in Big Ten conference play. Jack Plummer had a big day, 327 yards against a very good Iowa defense. So I think you can start to get a little optimistic if you're Purdue. Also, David Bell, by the way, had 197 yards receiving in that game. The big story from Week 8 was Illinois. They upset Wisconsin. I said during the preseason I thought this team would get somebody at home. I didn't really expect it to be this week against Wisconsin after the way Wisconsin had been playing this season, but Illinois found a way to get it done. Just a gutsy performance. Their defense played really well in this game. They did enough on offense. They were able to drive it down the field and kick that game-winning field goal. A program-changing win potentially for Illinois as they knock off Wisconsin 24-34, but they're still just 3-4 on the season, 1-3 in Big Ten conference play. Number 9 is Nebraska. Nebraska had a bye week this week. They're 4-3 on the season, 2-2 in conference play. This is a team that I picked to win the West, and I really thought that they were going to get things turned around this year, and it hasn't quite worked out that way. They haven't been awful. They've looked bad at times, but they've also looked pretty good at times as well. But again, 2 conference losses. They're not technically out of it yet. They still have time to get things turned around. We'll see how they bounce back after this bye week. Remember last year, they really started playing well down the stretch, and we'll see if Nebraska can do that again. They already lost the tiebreaker with Minnesota, though, so I think it's going to be tough for them to get into that kind of position. Number 8 is Indiana. Big win for the Hoosiers. This team is looking pretty good right now. You look at the record, they're 5-2. 2-2 in Big Ten conference play. They beat Maryland 34-28. Now, that last win may be kind of tough. They have a pretty tough schedule the rest of the way, but they might can do it. They get Purdue at the end of the season. That's a winnable game. And Indiana can make it to a bowl game this year. They've been very good offensively. Defensively, they need a little work, but they haven't been awful. And Indiana, all of a sudden, looking like a pretty good team in the Big Ten. Number 7 is next, and that is Michigan State. Spartans had the week off this week. They are getting ready for a big game against Penn State this weekend. And this, I'm telling you, bye week, Penn State coming off of 2 big games. That could be an interesting game. Michigan State's 4-3 on the season, 2-2 in conference play. So Michigan and Michigan State now really, I think, are eliminated in the East. I don't see really any path for them to get there. It's going to be Ohio State or Penn State, and it's probably going to be the winner of that game. But Michigan State, they're just kind of hanging around. And again, I think they're going to have a real shot to make some noise this weekend. Maybe get an upset over Penn State. Number 6 is Iowa. The Hawkeyes survive against Purdue, 26-20 the final score. This is a team that was coming off of a couple of big games. I was worried about a little bit of that hangover effect against against a Purdue team that was coming in really hungry, really desperate for a win. But they took care of business. This was a tough spot to be in. This team's still very much alive in the Big Ten West, especially after Illinois beat Wisconsin. Yes, Iowa has 2 losses, but if they can beat Wisconsin, give them their second loss, they also would have the tiebreaker there. They will also, need a little help. Minnesota's going to have to lose. They'll have to beat them as well to get there. But watch out for Iowa. Number 5 is Michigan. I was actually impressed with Michigan this past weekend. Not the way they started the game, but their fight to come back in that game. I was really impressed with Shea Patterson at quarterback. I thought he made some plays and looked like, this is a team that could win a big game. Against Wisconsin, you thought this is a team that they can't beat anyone good. But after this game against Penn State, they came close, had a drop pass late in the game that would have tied it. This is a good football team. Maybe not a great football team, but a good football team. And Michigan, I really impressed me this weekend. And I do believe they are, again, a solid team, but not a team that's going to contend for a Big Ten championship. Minnesota, are they a team that's going to contend for a Big Ten championship? If they can beat Wisconsin, Minnesota likely will go to the Big Ten championship game because they could still afford a couple of losses. There are other things in there as well. Iowa could potentially get in the way. But, yeah, Minnesota with a big game against Wisconsin, that is going to be the game that will determine their fate, in my opinion. They beat Rutgers 42-7. They're 7-0, 4-0 in conference play. Tanner Morgan has stepped in and played really well for them. They got a whole host of running backs. Rodney Smith, he had over 100 yards in this game. Tyler Johnson had 130 yards receiving. Big win for Minnesota as they continue to roll. Number 3 is Wisconsin, coming off a very tough loss to Illinois, but I still have them at number 3. I would understand if you wanted to put them a little bit lower, but they lose on the road in a close game. It was really, a trap game with Ohio State coming up the next week. They're 6-1 on the season, 3-1 in conference play. Jack Cohn played pretty well in this one, didn't play bad. Jonathan Taylor played pretty well. They just didn't play well enough because Illinois was able to pull off a shocking upset, probably the biggest upset of the season so far in all of college football. Let's move on now to number 2. That is Penn State. The Nittany Lions get a big win over Michigan, 28-21. I don't know what the deal was with the offense. It just almost looked like they just went conservative after they got the lead. And then in the fourth quarter, you saw they just turned it back on, and they were able to get that touchdown to get that separation, get the lead back up to 14. And then they just hold on. They hold on against Michigan. So I don't know if that was play calling or if Michigan just started outplaying them. I don't know what the deal was there. But it's going to be really interesting to see Penn State in a few weeks against Ohio State in a game that, like I said, is going to determine the Big Ten East most likely. I'm looking forward to that matchup. But yes, Ohio State is number 1 still in our power rankings. They dominate against Northwestern. I was really impressed with Justin Fields in this game. I mentioned this on my top 25 video. Just his ability to pick up third downs. That's something that I question when it's 3rd and long. Is he going to be able to get it done when the pressure's on and it's 3rd and 9 and you got to make a throw? He did that in this game. I was impressed with him. Obviously, his athleticism. He's a freak athlete. And he is a legitimate Heisman contender, in my opinion. They've added much better play on defense. The rushing attack is just unreal. Ohio State is a real national championship contender. And to me, the best team in the Big Ten. And I don't really know if anyone's going to be able to beat them or not. So those are my power rankings. Again, give me your thoughts down in the comments below. Thanks for watching this video. And stay tuned for more here on our Big Ten football channel.